I love that music. It gets in my head. Hi,
Yeah,
Jen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You probably see me in like dancing to it in the back.
Yeah, right. Hey, guys. Welcome back. My name is Shannon. I'm one of the hosts, along with Jennifer, of the Calling the Forgotten Files. We are in season 2 now. We have 13 episodes per season, but oh goodness, we skipped the show last week because we both had kind of stuff going on. We weren't feeling too good, but we are back this week and got a fun guest. Typically, we like try to have a theme or for the show, but we're just gonna shoot the shit with Joe DeHoyos tonight and just talk about cryptid and things he's experienced and stuff like that. So, Facebook user, I was just dancing. See, right? I'm telling you, it's pretty catchy. So, Jen, you've done something recently. You got your new location.
I do. I also have laryngitis, so I'm not going to be speaking a whole lot, and I'm going to sound terrible when I do. So I apologize in advance. But yeah, so I've been a little bit over, I think, a week and a day now in my new space, and it's been an experience. But it's actually been really good. I enjoy having a space down, in a place where I can meet people in person. So yeah, that's made it really nice, exciting. Have some classes I'm teaching. Um, just a bunch of new, like, exciting changes in the mediumship world for me.
That's awesome.
It's still really new, so we'll see how it goes. But you can hear it, Joe. It's like it's hit and miss. It may go out. I don't know.
Well, speaking of Joe, let's go ahead and bring on Joe DeHoyos. He is the host of Beyond the Woodline podcast. Joe was the first person who ever interviewed me on a podcast, and we became friends. Through him, I met Beth Allen and a whole bunch of people that are really close to my heart today. And then I ended up doing this show as a co-host with him for over a year. I don't remember the timeline, but we had a lot of fun, talked to some really interesting people, and he's just a really cool guy. So I thought, you know what? I want to bring him on the show because, he had me on. So all right, Joe, how are you doing?
That was a fabulous introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, he's cool,
Yeah. What's up, Joe Fox?
Oh,
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me on the show. I appreciate it. We go a long way back. We had some great times. So it's always fun to
yeah.
catch up with you.
Took Joe on his first paranormal investigation at Haunted Hill House.
Right.
That was fun. Interesting location, huh?
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool location. It's I still tell people about that. It wasn't like extremely crazy, but it had some things happen that kind of stuck with me there.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, especially for people that don't know you and what you do.
Well, I'm Joe DeHoyos. I'm here in Texas. I've been researching Bigfoot since about 2012 roughly, and I started out doing that stuff, and just from that I got into the paranormal stuff, researching and UFO and aliens, and then eventually, man, I got into like different stuff like remote viewing and psychic mediums and just a large uh, just so much stuff. It's almost more than I can handle at times, but it's a lot of fun. I have remote viewers on the show too, and so yeah, it keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah, you definitely have a wide range of guests that you have on, which I think is really cool. I mean, you cover like every topic that's even like out there. You had somebody
Yeah.
on about
Recently, I've even had tarot card readers and a woman that did soul contracts. And this is stuff that I would have thought I'd never be involved in. And like I now myself, I've got tarot decks and oracle cards, and I've
Right.
got crystals and pendulums and
you
uh,
do.
yeah. I thought I would never do that stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
in so like in 2019, I went through like a real bad patch from about 2017 to 2019, and someone actually reached out to me from South Carolina, and he told me that his wife was thinking about me, and she couldn't stop thinking about some of the stuff I was going through, and she asked me, "Would anybody have put a hex on you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I because I knew somebody, right?" And she mentioned a name, and she goes, "Does this name make any sense?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, it was right on the money. It was crazy how accurate the name was, you know. So yeah, so ever since then, I started, protecting myself a little bit more and stuff like that, and yeah, it's just kind of grown from there. And I mean, I meditate now and stuff like that, which I thought I would never do. Also, uh,
It's awesome, isn't it?
oh yes, yeah, it's once I've got really comfortable with it, you know, yeah, it's kind of trippy.
Yeah, I don't meditate as much as I should. I used to meditate like all the time. Even driving down the road, I would just be driving and meditating. But I
Oh,
definitely need to like slow myself down and get back into that again. So definitely, definitely. So you live down towards Houston,
right,
and
right.
so you do a lot of Bigfoot, research down there, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, mainly the Sammy's DeForest, but I have traveled to a couple of other places like the Davy Crockett. I've been to Louisiana a couple of times and North Texas and out in the hill country. Of course. Uh, yeah, there's tons of activity in Texas. Texas is one of the uh, states that has a lot of reports of Bigfoot and other cryptids for that matter. Like Dogman. So it's a fun state to be in, and we've certainly found a lot of evidence here and a lot of witnesses that I've talked to here and become really good friends with. So yeah, it's a fun time.
I know when I was with Eileen Jones and David Childers out in the woods in Louisiana. We heard there was a lot of bottles in that wood from like the old homestead,
Mhm.
and we hear off in the woods where there's nothing for miles back there, like a bottle being thrown.
Right.
And then it was just really, really it was creepy. Like we heard noises and all kinds of stuff, and the people that own the property were like, there's nothing back there. And heard knocking, and I'm like, okay, so maybe I might have had a Bigfoot experience. It was kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
cool. I
Yeah.
thought
When
I
you
might
first hear
have.
those knocks for the first time, you're almost like, "What the hell is that? What else is out here that's gonna make that knocking noise?" Because it sounds like they're having batting practice. Like major league batting practice out there. It's so solid and so crisp.
So, have
Yeah.
you visually ever seen a Bigfoot?
So I've got two stories, well, three stories actually. So my first time, I was out hiking, and the person I was with, I won't mention her name, but the person I was with was up ahead, and she stops and she goes, "Hey, look, I saw something move over there." And she points. So I walk up next to her and I'm looking, and I see this flash of fur. It was red. It was like a reddish orange, almost like an orangutan kind of color. But I saw it go from like one tree to the other tree, but it was so brushy. So my brother-in-law was with me, and I said, "Hey, let's go over there and let's check it out." So we walked over there. We didn't see anything, and when I came back, she was like, "No." She goes, "Whatever it was way taller than you and Patrick because I couldn't even see you two because the brush was so high." And she goes, "You and Patrick are like this, and this thing was like up here." And so I started asking her about what happened, and she told me she heard a branch break and or snap, and it caught her attention. So she started scanning the wood line, and she got to that tree, and she saw something duck behind the tree, and she said it was big and gray, long hair. And so this is like when I first started doing the research too out there. I started talking to other people as I was making more and more friends and telling them about that area. And it turns out there's a big gray one in that area that people have seen. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I'd probably
And
freak out.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool. Then the second time we were out, this was maybe in 2015, I want to say. It was me, Shane, and my friend Armando, who recently passed away. We were sitting around a campfire, and we don't camp at campgrounds. We kind of go out into the woods and actually do camping, like that. Um, he was parked. Armando's truck was parked. He had this big old truck, and we heard something hit his truck. It didn't sound like anything fell on top of it. It was like something hit it from the side, like it got slapped on the side of his truck. So we got up, we searched his truck, couldn't find anything. There's a pond across the way, and he had this big spotlight. It was one of the brightest flashlights I've ever seen. And as he was scanning from the right to the left, when he got to a certain point, I saw two legs jump out of the light. Two big hairy legs jump out of the light.
Wow.
And then last year, that same area, um, I was out there with my friend Walter. I don't know if you ever met Walter, but you
I
probably heard
remember
Walter.
Walter. Yeah.
Okay, so me and Walter were out there, and we had another friend of ours out there with us. And man, we were hearing like branches snap and break, and like something was shaking the bushes and the trees, and we were hearing these crazy screams and vocals, and um, we got up and we got a lot of that stuff on recording, and so I just told him, so you know what, let's get back to the camp and kind of just sit around and just listen and pay attention. So he had his back, well, he was facing me, so he had his back towards where I was looking, but I was looking, and I kept seeing this figure going like this behind a tree. You know, it would just go like this, and it did it so much, and I'm just there staring at it. I'm like, what in the hell is that? And him and his friend kept asking me, "What are you looking at? What are you I was like, I'm not looking at anything, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy, you know, because at nighttime your eyes can't play tricks on you, you know.
Yeah.
But and then at one part it actually stepped out, and then it was swaying side to side, and you could clearly see the silhouette of it. And then, but that only lasted for maybe 10 minutes at the most. And then the next morning, I told him, I said, "Hey, let's walk over here and let's look around." We couldn't find any prints. It's all high grass area there. But then I told him what I was looking at. He was like, "Man, you should have said something to us." That's why I didn't want to freak you out, you know.
So, do you have a theory about what Bigfoot is?
I'm convinced Bigfoot's a flesh and blood creature. I do think there are other entities around or out there that are maybe more supernatural or even paranormal. But I think Bigfoot itself is a flesh and blood creature, just based on the people that I've talked to. Um, I've only talked to one person personally that has told me they saw it like melt in front of their eyes and disappear, basically, you know. But I still think those are something that's not uh, what a Bigfoot is. And
There's Scotty. Hey, Scott. Hello,
people might
hello.
argue with me about that, but it's okay. We all have our opinions, and
Yeah,
until
exactly, and that's why
yeah,
I was
and
just
and
curious, like
and
what
like
yours
so,
was.
and like one thing that I don't do is like tell somebody that's not what you saw, or that's not what you experienced, or that's
Yeah,
not what happened.
absolutely.
If someone tells me that's what they saw and that's what happened, and that's what they saw and that's what happened, you know. If I wasn't there, you know, to see it or witness it myself, then I can't say anything about it.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on, because you've had some paranormal experiences and everything. Have you ever seen like an apparition, like a full body apparition, or heard disembodied voices or anything like that?
Yeah, we've uh, so my whole family many years ago, I lived in a house and it was haunted. And when we first moved in there, I mean, I was in there maybe 2 or 3 days. I was laying in bed and I felt the bed go down, and I thought it was my dog. I had a big boxer. He was like 75 pound boxer. And I felt the bed go down, so I thought it was him. Hey, Beth, love you too.
Beth.
And so when the bed went down, I kind of sat up. I was like, I was gonna say, get your ass off the bed, 'cause I thought it was, you know, I thought it was Atlas, but there was nobody there. Then maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe a week later, the same thing happened, and my whole family was in the kitchen, and I leaned up, and there was nobody there, but I felt the bed clearly go down. So I walked into the kitchen, and I said, "Hey, this house is haunted." I just said it just like that, and right away, my kids were like, "Yeah, yeah, it's haunted." And they all started telling me stuff. And by this time, we hadn't even been there 2 weeks, and they all started telling me stuff that they had experienced and stuff they had saw. Um, like my oldest daughter told me she saw this bright flash come out of her closet, and in that closet, there's no light bulb in there. You know, she goes, it was like someone took a picture. Uh, I saw like a figure walk across the living room. It was like a shadow. It was very light, but it was still very visible. You clearly saw it. Um,
Shadow figures can be creepy.
yeah, and we heard footsteps, like someone's walking in the house, and even the dog, he would jump up and walk over there, like to investigate. Um, my my oldest daughter, it was late at night, and she woke me up. She's like, "Hey, I saw this black figure go from one side of the room to the other side." So, um, so we get up, and we're in the living room. We're kind of like huddled up, talking, game planning, and she was. So we all got kind of shaken from time to time, but we never like got scared, you know, like terrified, because we didn't feel that whatever was there was trying, you know, to scare us. Um, so I told my son, I said, "Hey, go grab the recorder and bring it back, and we'll go in there and we'll do like an EVP." I had never done that before, and so me and my oldest are still there talking. She's giving me more details. My son comes back and he's white as a ghost. Well, him and my youngest went into the room and did a little session, and he goes, "You got to hear this," and he says, "Is anybody here with us?" And you hear a voice say, "Yeah," just clear voice like that. Uh, but he after he graduated high school, he called me and he's like, "Dad, I'm sitting here watching TV, and this is in the daytime, and he kind of sees some movement out of the corner of his eye, and he looks, and it's a like a shadow figure. He said it was more smoky. It was squatting down with his finger extended, and it just touched him on his arm. He said as soon as it touched him on the arm, it just disappeared. But he said all the hair on his arm stood up.
That would be kind of creepy. Like, don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me. You're not allowed.
And then my oldest called me. It was in the middle of the daytime also, and she's like, she was sitting on the couch, and from where she's sitting, there's like a hallway next to the TV, and her room is right there, the door to her room. She said, "Dad, I heard the doorknob turn. I saw my door open and the light come through." And she goes, "I could see someone stick their head through the crack, like they looked out at me, you know." And then, of course, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was not a big, there was a dark figure standing there. It looked like a woman. It looked like she was wearing a dress. It scared the hell out of me, and I kicked it. I said, "Get back, you." I cussed, But again, that was me getting scared of it. I don't think it was trying to scare me.
Right. So you had paranormal experiences. You've gone on a ghost hunt, a quote unquote ghost hunt. You research Bigfoot. I know you're into other cryptids and everything. Do you ever go out and like look for, skinwalkers or dogmen or anything like that? Try to do any other special sessions?
When I go out into the woods, I'm not necessarily looking for, I guess you think paranormal or supernatural, but I will look for prints, like dogman prints or, Bigfoot prints or anything else um, that might be out there, But here in Texas, it's mainly Bigfoot and dogman in certain areas, and so that's what I look for. But I do believe that some of the stuff that's happened in the woods is paranormal related. I think a lot more stuff goes on in the woods that is paranormal than what people give it credit for. And poor Bigfoot, gets the blame for it. Whether it's the footsteps, stuff getting thrown, or even hearing voices. I think a lot of stuff can be paranormal.
I've been watching that series, Terror in the Woods. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
That show is exactly. I mean, it's named perfectly, right? Because I watched that show, and then I'm afraid to go into the woods. Like, I'm never camping in a tent again after watching that. I'm just not doing it.
Well, Goatman's Bridge, I mean, it's not so much the bridge there that gets me. It's the woods around it and the trails. It has its own vibe. But you have to think there's a lot of people going out there with 50 million Ouija boards on a given night, across the bridge. But there's something to be said about the woods back there. It's the chill factor is there, and you can see like shadow figures going in front of you. There's certain areas that you're just like, this ain't good. The vibe just changes. And so I took some coworkers there when I was doing training in Dallas back in August and took them on their first adventure. and we got lost on those trails for a second, but yeah, I had to pull a girl aside and snap her out of it and clear her energy out. Cause this is 5 minutes in. She got a little out of hand. So we had to calm her down. I thought we were going to have to leave, but the woods can be very, very creepy, especially because you can't see that far ahead of you. You know what I mean? Like you don't really know what's going on. Hey, Michael, what's going on? But so I went on a retreat this last weekend to Colorado. Got to see my friend Lisa and met some wonderful ladies. So that was really interesting. And I got to go to Bishop's Castle. You ever heard of Bishop's Castle?
I've never heard of that.
This man just started making this castle by hand. It's very interesting. It's free to go in. He's a conspiracy theorist to the T. And he thinks that, burn bans are going against his God-given right and all kinds of crazy stuff. But, he's been battling the state the whole time. But I mean, this thing is just so intricate and just like a bridge to nowhere. It just kept building on randomly. It's really insane. But did that, and I went to my first hot springs. But the one we wanted to go to wasn't open till 5, and I had a flight to catch. So we go to this one. It looks like the desert where we were at. And there was an old like RV park behind it, and it wasn't really nice. And there was like 90% men to 10% women, and it was nudity and stuff like that. But like the water was murky, and I'm like, is the water supposed to be clear and or is it supposed to have all these particles and mercury? They're like, no. So my first experience at a hot springs was like going to like the local dive bar that was full of like bar flies. All the guys who want to play volleyball were like, no, dude, like don't talk to us. Like, so we didn't stay there too long. It was really creepy, but we still had fun because we all hung out and everything. And then flight delayed there, flight delayed back. It was interesting, but yeah, I've been trying to talk Joe into taking me on a Bigfoot research thing.
I'm going out next weekend.
Yeah, after my last trip, I'm gonna wait a while. But if you ever come up this way, let me know, because there's stuff like in Northeast Texas around Jefferson and stuff.
Yeah, right around even like the Cattle Mills area.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of encounters up there. I talked to a guy up there. He moved back into the woods. His family owns some property, and he said that growing up, he heard these stories about Bigfoot and stuff. He's like, man, I thought they were people just full of shit, And he says, man, he said that he was there. They moved into a trailer, him and his wife, and he heard the dogs barking one day, and he said he looked back out there. And he said he had this one little light out there. He goes, it was just like a little light bulb. It wasn't even like an outdoor light, really. And he said, I could see something squatting down. He said, so I banged on the window trying to scare it off. He said, this thing stood up and stood up and stood up. He goes, this thing just kept getting taller and taller. He said the one he saw was about 12 feet tall. He said it came all the way up to the kitchen window, put his face next to the window and just looked in at him. And he says, Joe, I'll tell you, it looked at me like, I know that you know that I could kill you at any time. He said, that's the way, that was his look.
When you know he's in charge, yeah.
And he said it was so big because he said they walked over to the car. And you know how like you got the window open, you reach in there and grab something? He said it was so big, it couldn't do that. It turned sideways and was just reaching in, just trying to see if it could grab something. Yeah.
So what's your thought of like, say, I just had this go through my head. Like, do you think that maybe Bigfoot used to be more prevalent and now it's like more of an endangered species type situation?
Yeah, I would say so. There's a lot of talk about maybe at one time, man hunted them down just like we did everything else, and killed them off, even though they're bigger than us, they're stronger than us, men don't care. We'll gather as many people as it takes to kill something, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a long history of that, yeah. So there's that thought that early man and these things were probably together at one time, and we just killed them off for as much as we could. They're probably coming back now.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've also heard a theory that they may live like in cave systems underground.
Right. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Serious question, Joe. Can you manifest an encounter, do you think?
I don't know for sure, but I've known people who have said they've had, what do you want to call them, visions or even telepathic communication with these creatures, And like I said, I don't think that's the flesh and blood type. I think that's the other type that maybe, non-terrestrial being, if you want to call it that,
But
so that's my thought.
From a medium standpoint, even if they were a flesh and blood creature, you could still have telepathic communication.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think that they have to be of any paranormal nature to have that telepathic communication, because we can communicate with other animals. So if they were flesh and blood, I can see that being feasible without them being, something out of this world. I could see
Right.
it being almost more feasible, actually.
Yeah. Well, I've gone that route too. Uh, I've asked people, who were like psychics to help me out with this, and there's like two areas in the San Mesa forest where they're very, very prevalent. And I've actually given someone who's respected in this field with their psychic abilities, and they've never picked anything up. But these are two areas that are very, very active, and we know that they're there, and they've never picked anything up. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the psychic connection, and but like I said, I've known people who have had it and weren't even asking for it. They just went out in the woods and they got a vision uh, of one of these creatures and then wind up seeing it like either that same day or the next day. So yeah, I agree with you, Jennifer. I think it's very, very possible to have a connection.
Interesting.
So what was your first, I mean, at what point or what event happened for you to start getting into Bigfoot research and cryptids and stuff like that? Was there any defining moment?
I was a kid when I first heard about Bigfoot, and I mean I was maybe 7, 8 years old, and so I had a neighbor that I grew up with, and we're still friends to this day. And his dad, um, man, he would tell us stories about UFOs, Bigfoot, paranormal stuff. He had his own encounters growing up too, and uh, where he got all these stories, I'll never know because you're talking about the late '70s, early '80s, right? And so he really, really kind of kicked this curiosity off for me. And then my dad, he was very open to the subject, especially like Bigfoot. And if that came on like on In Search of or Unsolved Mysteries, or even if it was aliens and paranormal stuff, he would call us, "Hey, look, this show's coming on. Come check it out." So we'd sit down and we'd watch it with him. So that always, from a young age, it piqued my interest. When I got old enough to cut grass and earn some money, that's what I would do with the money. I would go buy books, on all this stuff. And
Awesome.
even through high school, I had all these books. Yeah. So
Hi, Abe.
yeah, so it's always been something I was interested in. But then, I went to college for a little bit and got married, had kids. All that got put in the back burner. But once they all got old enough to go out with me, and I didn't have to worry about them too much, then that's when I started getting back into the subject.
Gotcha. It's just like I know enough to know I don't know a damn thing, and there's all these different cryptids and like creatures and everything, and I'm just like anything is possible. But I just sometimes wonder, like I would want to see or feel or communicate with. That would be interesting. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm open minded to like to try and go explore and do these different research things and sessions and everything just to kind of venture out a little bit more. What is this? What did he say? It says absolutely no one I know takes Bigfoot sightings seriously. That is precisely why I'm here. Awesome, Joe and Joe. So so beyond the Woodline, what does that mean? Why did you pick that title for your podcast? I already know, but
Okay, well, I don't have to answer that question. No.
okay, cool.
Next question. No, so yeah, so like for me, Beyond the Woodline came from me starting to explore different genres or expand my horizons, so to speak, and um, get outside of the world of Bigfoot, and that's Beyond the Woodline for me. And checked out more of the strangeness and the unknown in this world and all the mysteries, and to explore all that and to share all that information too. That's a big reason why I have the podcast. Isn't so much for my own clout, but I love talking to people. I love meeting people, and I love hearing stories and sharing stories. I think that's very important. And unfortunately, sometimes other people don't feel that way, but I'll share whatever I got.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. Is there anything like out there that you're like afraid of, quote unquote afraid, like one thing you would not want to encounter?
Probably a dog man. I hear a lot of bad things about the dog man as far as how terrifying they can be and how aggressive a lot of their encounters are. And even though you hear of aggressive Bigfoot encounters, the fear level is way up with dogman compared to the Bigfoot. I probably wouldn't want to run into one too close. I would love to see one, maybe with a rifle scope, you know. But, but
So, like, what is Dogman exactly?
there are theories on that. I mean, everything from is it an actual canine, right? Some people don't think it's strictly a canine, but there are those in the field also that believe that it's not actually a canine. It's more of a of a baboon, more of a primate, because it's got the snout like a baboon does. So I can definitely see that too. If you get this big giant baboon-looking creature, people might mistake it for a werewolf or a dog man. Um, and then some people, of course, you got uh, the supernatural and the paranormal people who will say that that's what that creature is. And I've certainly heard enough stories about that. One of the strangest stories I heard, there was a guy, he was a truck driver. He was driving down a road, and he said he saw this giant dog walking on 2 feet, right on the side of the road. And it was so tall that when he passed it up, he could still see the top of his head in the, out the passenger side window. And when he got far enough away to look in his rearview mirror to look at it again, it was a man. Yeah.
Oh,
So
crazy. Yeah. Oof.
that's what I say. I don't discount anyone's story or tell anybody that you're crazy or no, that's not what you saw. This guy has nothing to gain by telling me the story or by promoting
Right.
the story. Um, so I like I said, I do believe that there are other entities out there other than flesh and blood, and everything gets lumped in there together. But yeah,
Abe says they run loose in Elm Grove Estates. I had to move. Like Dogman's? Whoa. It's like,
yeah, he's had some crazy encounters with those creatures. He
right.
was actually on the TV show too. What TV show were you on, Abe? I can't remember. I don't remember if it was Terror in the Woods or not. I don't remember, but he was on a show here recently, like last year, I think.
You guys, if you have any questions for Joe, definitely pop them in, or for us, pop them in the comments, and we'll get to them for sure. Okay. But
yeah, I'd love to do more dogman investigations. They run rampant up around the hill country, which I've been to, but it's so. I don't know if you've ever been to the hill country or not, but it's very, very rocky. It's hard to walk around there. Oh yeah, he was in Terror of the Woods. Yeah, Terror in the Woods season 3. Yeah.
that's what you were talking about. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to watch that now. I'm not a big TV watcher, but I'll have to check it out.
It's actually really good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I like the way, I just like the way it's produced. I like all the things about it.
Right.
I stumbled across it accidentally, and I kind of got hooked on it. So now I watch for it, even though it's scary. I really like it.
I found myself watching because like the things have really slowed down with my job, like big time, big time. I went from like having 180 something leads to like 40. So I have a lot. I have to stretch my day out. So I find myself like in between calls, like watching murder mystery stuff and everything. Like I know how to hide the body real good. So you were talking earlier about all the evidence and videos and everything you've compiled and what you might do with that.
Well, besides sharing it, I do want to put something together, like I said, like a documentary or even a book. I am working on a book that I've been working on for a while. It's all fiction, but I think eventually I want to put a book together with like encounters and evidence and stuff like that people have told me and showed me, so that's what I think I want to do with it eventually.
And Joe Fox asked, Joe, it moved. Joe, where are you from originally? And is Texas a better place for encounters?
I think Texas is a great place for any kind of encounter. There's actually some areas that are very, very active, like for UFOs, like around, again, the hill country, even up around Mineral Wells, there's a lot of UFO sightings there too. There's paranormal, there's cryptid sightings there. And for whatever reason, I think they're attracted to certain areas, But yeah, here in Texas, definitely cryptids, in any forest, whether it's the Sam Houston, Davy Crockett, the Angelina, the Big Thicket, which I've been to all of these forests, and it's just crazy. It's crazy fun, and if you like being scared, but you can handle it, I recommend you do it.
And then, Joe, can you tell your story of the shadow person in your room when you were younger?
Have I ever told you that story, Shannon?
I don't remember.
That's that was something that really, really scared me and terrified me. And so in that room, it's my mom's house where she still lives in today. I was maybe 20 or 21, and I was laying in bed, and um, I saw Hat Man. You know, people call him Hat Man, and that's what I call him. I call him Hat Man. And he came towards me, had a big ass knife in his hand, right? And he came down, and I caught his wrist, and but it wasn't me. It's like so strong, I stopped his wrist. He was in control, and I reached up, grabbed his neck, and I squeezed it as hard as I could. And he spun around, and when he did that, I fell on the floor. I had a shotgun under the bed, and I grabbed the shotgun and I pointed up, and he was gone. Right? Yeah, I don't think I've ever told this story
I
on
don't think
any
I've
pod.
heard that. No, that would
No.
be kind of traumatizing, you would think.
Yes.
It's like-
Yes. So, and I remember trying to call my dad, and I couldn't even call him. I couldn't even yell out for his name. Yeah, I don't think I've ever told that story live anywhere. I don't know, Abe. You knew about it. Did I ever say it on a show somewhere? I don't think I have. At least not to this detail either. Um, so, and all this took, well, I don't know, 10, 15 seconds, right? So years later, uh, my niece's ex-husband had the same experience in that room, and he never knew about my experience. Oh, I shared it with him. Oh, you put me on the spot. Thank you, Abe. Yeah.
Thank
That's something.
you.
Yeah, yeah. I never tell that story, so you got lucky.
Yeah, that would creep me out, I think, especially a long knife coming at you.
Yeah.
So was it a shadow figure or like a full body apparition?
This is the guy I call Hat Man. That's who I related him with, and I didn't get the. I guess even before that, or even during that, I didn't know what to call him. But until years later, and I found out that there was an entity out there that they called Hat Man, and I was like, "That's the son of a bitch that was in my room that night. That was him." And I looked, and there are other instances where he's used a knife, and he's done the same thing to people. So it's crazy, you know.
Yeah, and you weren't like you were a child. You were like 21, you said, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. I was mean as hell at 21 too. You know, so yeah, it definitely scared the hell out of me.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, I've seen some things. So what I seen with Lindia at my house, and that was on that show about. They didn't portray it correctly on the show. They looked like some guy that was in S&M and leather in my kitchen. That was not what I seen. But out in the workshop behind the house, it was like almost like a black velvet, muscular man-shaped body with a big Black Panther head on it.
Right.
I saw it from the waist up, and I mean, Lindia saw it next to me. We looked at each other because we couldn't believe what we were just seeing. And and then we finally got the guts to go up and go inside and explore it because that's what we do. And we go in places like that. And then there was nothing there. So we were just sitting there talking about nobody can tell us any different because we know what we've seen. We've both seen it. We know it was there. Nobody can convince us otherwise. And we were talking about it. All of a sudden, this black house cat comes running out of there and jumped off into the trees over the chain link fence up into the trees and disappeared. And I want to know what that was because I was on an investigation one time. And Daniel, my old tech guy, he came up to me. He's like, Shannon, you got to hear this. The homeowner's, dad is here. And he was telling me about this story when he was a kid. And it was from that neighborhood. And this isn't like a big neighborhood. It's just like a few blocks and that's it, off by the lake. And he was telling him about seeing that exact same thing in a window when he was a kid in that same neighborhood. It's like, I want to know what that was. Have you heard of anything like that in that description?
No. I remember when you asked me about that. And I sent messages out to a couple of friends of mine, and neither one of them knew what the hell that was either.
I know what I've seen, and it was not okay. And it looked like surprised that we even opened that door and looked at it, but it wasn't a little cat. It presented itself as a cat as it came out and jumped off into the trees and disappeared. Like what cat will jump over chain link fence into the leaves and just be gone.
Right.
It was so weird, and I've never encountered anything like that. And to this day, that was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen. And that was when it was like, it's time to move out of this house. It's time to go.
Yeah.
I can't do it. But I don't know. Maybe just the way it manifested to that appearance. I don't know. But I guess
Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what that was. I know that there is a cryptid out there, like cat people, if you want to call them that. Feline people. I don't know, but I don't think what you saw was that. I think you saw something else.
maybe been completely elemental, because we
Yeah.
both seen exactly the same thing. We both seen it. It was just like, it was there,
Right.
gold eyes. It was just, as soon as we opened that door and the sunlight shined in, we were just like, what the hell? It was scary, scary. Jen, have you experienced any kind of thing, like any kind of cryptids besides that story you were telling me earlier?
No, I really have. Which story?
The story. Yeah.
About your daughter and you, like,
I wanted to clarify which story.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. We'll leave that alone.
No. Other than that, I really haven't. And I honestly don't know what that was that my daughter and I saw. But we were driving, it was a couple of years ago. We were actually driving through the Indian reservation. And so, a lot of things come into my mind when we see this. Is our own mind playing tricks on us because of where we are, right? Because we're actually not far from a couple of ranches out here that are known for paranormal activity, one being Skinwalker Ranch. So, we're driving in that vicinity. Anyway, in front of us, something goes across the road, and I thought it was an injured deer. Like, my thought was that looked weird. I mean, because it went really quick. And my daughter says that was a man body hunched over with a dog head. And she was really freaked out. She was about 14 at the time. And she says, follow it. Like, let's go see what it is. So follow it. So I did. I turned down this road, like crossed in front of us on the highway, right next to some powwow grounds. And so it would have gone into the powwow grounds. So I went ahead and I turned, and we waited for a minute. It just wasn't there, right? It wasn't in the bushes. It wasn't, we just couldn't see it. So we just got back on the road and drove home in some silence. A few minutes later, maybe 20 minutes later, before we get home, my daughter, she just says, I'm pretty sure that was a skinwalker. And we never really discussed it again. And just a couple years later, just in casual conversation, we're driving in the vehicle, and she's mentioning to her friends about this one time when she saw the skinwalker, and she's describing it again. So she got a clearer look at it than I did. I just kind of saw in my peripheral vision, which looked like the best way that my brain could comprehend it was like a deer dragging its hind end, like maybe it had gotten hit or something, going across the road, but it was very, very quick. So that didn't make sense. But, I want my logical brain to kick in and tell me, like, what was that? But I didn't find an injured animal on the other side. We found nothing. So that's been my only experience. And I can't say that 100% that I know that that's what it was. But other than that, no, I've not encountered any cryptid type activity. We're very known for it around here. There's a lot of people that have, but I have. That's been my only experience that I can't say I definitively know what it was. And it's interesting. It's interesting the way that my daughter remembers it and how it's so clearly like implanted in her brain of what she saw. And like Joe was saying earlier, I don't get to tell her that's not what she saw, because I don't even know what the hell I saw, right?
It's like,
so that
was
my experience on it.
And it's things that that you've seen. Nobody can tell you otherwise. You've seen it and you can't explain it. And it drives me crazy to this day, because I know what I seen. It wasn't a small cat. Not at first, you just don't go from like a muscular man's body, this big, huge Black Panther looking head, like to a little cat. There was no, and I wasn't alone. We were traumatized by seeing that, but yeah.
Yeah. So like with this, my logical brain says, okay, a deer that maybe can't use its back legs and is kind of dragging him, and it's not going to move that quick. There would be, I would know, I would see it, right? So my logical brain can't quite make sense of it, but I really want to think that it was a deer. Like I do.
It's easier to think that.
Yeah.
So Joe, what do you got coming up next? I mean, what are you doing? I know you've done a lot of episodes on your show so far. What number are you at?
I think I'm gonna do 142 coming up.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot
that
of
will
shows.
be. Her name is Holly. She's into tarot and to dream interpretations, and she's a very spiritual person, and she has a lot to talk about. So it'll be a good episode. It'll be a good episode again. Then I've got some guys in the UFO field, some abductees coming up. So I think it'll be pretty cool, pretty interesting shows, and yeah, I can't wait.
Remember when I sent you, without knowing, I sent you some Google coordinates?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I was sleeping one day at my mom's house because I had worked the night before, so I stayed the night over there. That's when I was bartending, and I was asleep, and I wake up to hearing. Well, my phone had taken pictures of the ceiling, and I had a T-shirt on. It wasn't like I was it was sitting on my skin, and I ended up taking like 100 pictures. I sent you the pictures, the screenshots, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, on the time frame in the middle of these pictures being taken, my phone sent Joe coordinates, like Google coordinates. And the weird thing about it is it was in the stockyards where I had an investigation like a week later, where things got really crazy too. So that was really, really interesting. And then Phoenix was trying to convince me that to go look for 3 dots on my body because she thought I was an extraterrestrial. I was taken by them. So
you never really like pressed the issue with me about that. But at that time I was having some activity, and I never told you. So when you told me that, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was having some very, very weird stuff going on. And again, I'm telling you this on the show. I never told anybody this out in public. Yeah, I was having some weird stuff. I had met somebody, and it was just strictly a platonic relationship. It wasn't nothing like that. But she had told me, she was an abductee, and we were communicating, and she was like, I'll tell you all this stuff, but if I'm going to tell you, you got to be prepared for it. I'm like, yeah, go ahead, tell me, and I'll be damned if stuff didn't start happening. Yeah, I had some very, very weird stuff going on here in the house. My whole room one night lit up in this blue light.
Wow.
And so when you told me that, and if Phoenix told you, I was like, holy shit, I didn't want to get you too involved. I said, I didn't know if I should have told you that, but I was like, you know what? She probably doesn't want to deal with this crap. She's dealing with
it. Might have helped me understand what was going on a little better, because I was just like, what?
And so I really didn't know, because when you sent me that message, I was like, do I acknowledge it, or do I encourage this kind of behavior from whatever's going on, right? And I was like, I don't know, she wants to dive into this crazy stuff like I was, So I just kind of left it alone. And then you were like, yeah, Phoenix told me to tell you too, because it was meant for you. And I was like, it probably fucking was. I'm thinking to myself.
That's right. I forgot that she told me to tell you that there was a reason why the coordinates came from my phone, because I didn't do them. I was asleep. And how would you do coordinates? You have to go on and Google those coordinates, you know what I mean? And specifically put in there that you want coordinates, and then just put it in messenger form. Like, that was so weird. In the middle of just phone going crazy, taking pictures. And I still have those screenshots in my Google Drive somewhere. I was just, I was like, man, you can't make that up. And then that was right down the street. The coordinates were from that crazy investigation where I saw looking like blood come out of the faucet and everything. That was insane.
Yeah. So that was a pretty crazy time for me.
I wish you would have told me, because I was like, somebody listen to what I'm saying, because this
I was listening.
I was like, this really happened. Scotty, you're crazy. Sorry, Shannon and Jen, but you both took a hot bath with me. Oh, and you too, Joe. What are you talking about? Scotty's hilarious. Yeah. And then I definitely want to see what did Joe Fox say. I definitely want to experience something. I need to know my reactions. The experience, like, go ahead.
I'm with him on that. I want to, and other Joe and I were talking about this earlier. I really want to experience something extraterrestrial. I want to see that UFO. I want to experience that and know without a doubt that that's what I saw.
Right.
Like, I really do want that experience as well.
Right.
So I'm waiting for it. I know it's going to come. I know.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was doing a lot of meditation during that time too. She has told me, she goes, uh, you can call them and they will respond to you. She goes,
Yes.
so man, I was doing a lot of meditation and I saw some crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie, and like I said, all this weird stuff started happening. Shannon's contacted me about her coordinates and pictures and what Phoenix told her. I'm like, oh my god, what have I gotten myself into? But I loved it, and I've since, I guess, put a stop to all that. But so I haven't had anything close to a year. But yeah.
Well, I have heard it likened to mediumship, that
Right.
once you learn how to make that connection, you'll always have that connection,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to just have that communication, which I find fascinating. There's what is it, the E3C method?
I was just about to tell you, I did a CE5 session,
Or
and
is that what it is, CE5? I don't know what
it was insane. We're all sitting in the floor. There's like only like these dim little like room lights, whatever. They were little bitty like night lights or whatever. And we're all sitting on the floor in the cell, and about 3 foot off the ground, and down, there was this swirling fog. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, do y'all see that? And I'm trying to take pictures of it, and it wouldn't show up in the pictures. And they're just looking at me like, it's a newbie. like it was a common thing to see swirling, fog like that. I was fascinated by it.
That's cool. So I know that there's a group here that gets together, and there's more than one of them, right? And they do the CE5 thing, an attempt to like communicate or have a sighting. And so I'm always fascinated by it. I don't know if, what the results of that have been, but I don't know. One day maybe I'll try that. I feel like it can't be a whole lot different. I feel like it has to be intention and maybe a different awareness in my space than when I'm, connecting with spirit. It's a shift in awareness. So maybe it's the same. Maybe it's just a shift.
Mm-hmm. Well, if my dumb butt can do it, I'm sure you can.
I sent some your way.
Yeah, I'll send some your way. And Shannon she was collateral damage in that, but
yeah, that was really weird. I couldn't explain it, and I'm just like, what happened? Because it was a feeling I never had, but an experience, and I'm like, I couldn't explain it. There was like no way to.
You don't know how many times I wanted to bring that up to you. I wanted to bring it up to you so much. I was like, I don't want to put that on her though.
It would have been okay. I've had crazier shit happen. We'll just put it that way. So, Joe, we're getting close to the hour and everything. Thank you so much for being on. It's really appreciated. And so if people want to listen to your show or follow you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Man, they can find me on Facebook, YouTube, of course, Spotify and Anchor. They're the same company. I don't know why they're not just one yet already. But anyway, just look for Beyond the Woodline, and I'll pop up. And if you need to contact me, it's beyond.woodline@gmail.com. If you've got some crazy stories and you're afraid to tell anybody, I'll listen to you. I won't think you're crazy. I mean, you've already heard my crazy shit. So
I just want to answer Abe's question really quick. Yeah, happened to me just today.
Inside joke.
No, honestly, yes. Sometimes I have, but I have to put some of that like on me, right? I have to know when to quit. I have to know when to step away. It's usually when you just keep pushing yourself or something like that can happen. So
right, exactly.
Just been my experience.
Yeah, man. So next week we have Beth Allen back on again, and I can't wait for that show. We're gonna just kind of little rebuttal show. We're gonna talk about gaslighting and emotional abuse, and so it's gonna be a really intense topic night. So said it was nice to have Joe on and just kind of catch up with him and just did a little, instead of being on all the serious topics, just to kind of talk about things that I have curiosity about. Even being on the show with you as long as I was, I'm still like so novice when it comes to, cryptids and everything. So it's definitely interesting. But guys, thanks for all, the interaction with chat. And then Joe says, thank you, Joe, Shannon and Jen, you guys rock. Thank you. No, thank you guys. We appreciate when you guys interact with us and ask questions and everything. But thank you, Abe, and thank you, Facebook users, guys. And when you're on StreamYard, if you give it permission, your name will pop up on the main screen there, so we can tell who you are. But you want to add anything, Joe, before we sign off?
Nope, just everybody behave and take care of each other. That's about it, really.
Behave. That's so boring.
Yeah, behave, because I'm not going to, so somebody's got to.
Say. All right, guys, we will catch you next week at 6 p.m. Central Time with Beth Allen and Jen. Thank you guys for watching.